well, let's start here. We good?
Yes.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 Mount Lebanon Planning Board meeting. We'll have a roll call. Our board members, Rebecca Griffith.
Here.
Dave Hornacek. Here. Clint Rounsful. Not here. John Schrott. Here. And Andrew George, myself here. Our municipal staff, Dan Diceroff. Here. Ian McMeans.
Here.
Greg Wharton. And our liaison, Steve Silverman. Not available. And Marilyn Oberst-Horner from the Historic Preservation Board. Okay, we'll have a statement on public comments. I'll read through this quickly. The planning board will accept public comments with each agenda item. Please note that a repetition of comments made by previous speakers is not necessary for them to be considered. If a group of residents shares an opinion, we suggest that you select a spokesperson. Public comments is not the appropriate time for prolonged debate or for personal comments about or questions directed to fellow residents, the board members, municipal staff, or any developer. In consideration of everyone's time, we encourage residents making public comments to refrain from repeating comments made by previous speakers. For Zoom participants, if you wish to comment during public comment agenda items, use the raise hand function. During the public comment agenda item, the chair will recognize you. When recognized, please be sure to unmute your line and announce your name and address for the record. If you have multiple or complicated comments, you are welcome to submit them to us in writing. We ask that you hold your remarks to 5 minutes and we'll let you know when your time is up. We appreciate your efforts to be respectful and ask that the audience refrain from any behavior that is disruptive or might intimidate free speech. Okay, with that, we'll move to our meeting minutes. Do we have an approval for the minutes from July 18th, 2023?
John Schrott, so moved. Move to approve the minutes of the July 18th, 2023 Planning Board meeting.
It's Rebecca Griffith. I'll second the motion.
I'm gonna abstain because I wasn't here. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, then the motion carries. We'll move to old business. We have a request for recommendation for final approval for a subdivision plan. Nancy Gillette and the Chabad Lubavitch of the South Hills are proposing a subdivision where 1701 McFarland Road will be receiving an approximate 4,000 square feet section of 1726 Theoden Drive and consolidating into a single 0.73 acre lot. Both commercial and residential lots will remain in compliance with the zoning regulations after the recording of the plan. Does somebody want to make an action?
I have one.
Is there, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have one note to make on this one. The Chabad property has a few outstanding violations they're working through our building inspection and code enforcement department. So that doesn't interfere with the planning board making a recommendation here tonight, but I would recommend to the Chabad folks that they clean those up in advance of final approval.
Thank you. Any remarks from the engineer?
Nothing other than, we have a letter dated August 10th, 2023. It just states that all the technical comments have been addressed and the plan is technically in order for your consideration.
Thank you. Any comments? We have a recommended action.
Rebecca Griffith. I'll make a motion to recommend final approval of the subdivision plan at 1701 McFarland Road, conditioned upon the developer addressing items noted in the engineer's review letter dated August 10th, 2023, with no additional comments from the planning board.
This is Dave Hornacek. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. New business here, request for preliminary approval and recommend for final approval for a subdivision plan. Zinat Masedji of 1404 Bower Hill Road is proposing a subdivision where the 1.189 acre lot will be subdivided into two lots consisting of 0.189 acres and 1 acre. Any comments from the engineer?
We had an initial letter dated August 10th, 2023. That had some minor comments related to the plan. They have already submitted back a plan. We've not issued the final letter, but they've addressed the comments. The only thing that I would like to add is that they're going to have to address an easement for the sanitary sewer for lot one because it would appear the lot one is serviced by the sanitary sewer in the rear, and they did add the 15-foot easement for the easement for the sewer from lot one to cross lot two. So the reason why I bring this up is when they go to the health department, they'll have to have a separate agreement because if they're two separate owners, they require an actual agreement between the property owners for a lateral sewer passing over another person's property. So they have the easement on it. They'll have to get this approved through the county health department, but that'll come down the line when they go to sell the lot. That's it.
Ian, do you have any?
Yep.
Any comments from the planning board? Do we have an action?
John Schrott, I'll make a motion to grant preliminary approval and recommend final approval to subdivision plan at 1404 Bower Hill Road, conditioned upon the developer addressing items required to be completed prior to final approval noted in the engineer's review letter dated August 10, 2023. And any comments from the planning board?
Xander George, I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Our next agenda item will be the comprehensive plan update.
Yes, thank you. So our consultants have been working hard on generating a draft of recommendations for the plan. Those will be reviewed by municipal staff and the planning board, as well as some focus groups that'll probably happen in early September-ish timeframe. So we are hopeful that the plan is on track for approval by the end of this year.
Thank you. One more capital improvements update. We have a recommendation from the planning board on the proposed capital improvements plan for the years 2024 to 2028 as being in accordance with the comprehensive plan. Okay.
Okay, all right. So what I'll do for you is just kind of give you a little high level update of the projects we have scheduled for 2024. In the CIP, we have a department prioritization list that's on page 12, if anyone's referencing that. So just kind of give you a high level of those. So in public works, we have obviously a lot of reoccurring projects like street reconstruction, sanitary sewer improvements, stormwater management, and scheduled replacement for the equipment. I know Dan could probably elaborate more on these, but I'll probably just give you a quick high level one. So the street reconstruction, that actually involves the asphalt and the brick streets. The system uses the evaluation and the historical information to kind of analyze which road segments need to be replaced each year. And that avoids overspending for the maintenance of some areas. So, but moving on to the sanitary sewer improvements, this project requires a continuous evaluation and proactive upgrades and repairs to the sanitary sewer system. The project's funded by sanitary sewer subcharges. That's the Alcosan. So it's all funded by that. Moving on to the stormwater one as well. This project's mainly funded through stormwater fees, but the stormwater sewer system requires general maintenance and repair work to keep it functioning properly, such as closed circuit televising, sewer line, and structure cleaning, inspections, corrections, things like that. So that's all ongoing things. And then scheduled equipment replacements, kind of self-explanatory. Once an equipment reaches the end of its useful life, we replace it. So those things are kind of, you'll see them reoccurring every year. But kind of getting down into the little specifics of it, we have our municipal building rotunda restoration. So that project is specifically outside the area here. It's in the rotunda, and there's interior plaster and mural painting that is focused on to be restored. So it's maintaining that key historic value of the building. I mean, this building's almost 100 years old. It's really mind blowing to me that it's still in the quality as it is. So we're looking to get that moving forward. But moving on, the public safety building exterior improvements. So phase one of a 5-year project was funded last year, and that project was started. But continuous improvements to the public building or public safety building, which pretty much includes the facade, the masonry, the waterproofing, but in that roof as well. It's going to be scheduled to be done here soon. But also moving back to the municipal building, the HVAC upgrades. There's a large 40-ton unit that's being replaced that serves the ground floor up until the second floor. That unit will decrease the amount of consumption and energy consumption that kind of correlates with our memos or our motions and resolutions that commissions passed about targeting, zero emissions. But in sticking with the municipal building, we're looking at our customer safety center upgrades. So that project specifically adds ballistic glass and paneling to that open desk in the front, still maintaining the open design of that concept in that area to kind of welcome residents in to kind of do and conduct business, but also providing that safety for any customer service representative down there. But moving to the next project, we have the North Meadowcroft Park ADA improvements. So that project basically just involves making accessibility improvements to the basketball and now pickleball areas. I know that was a pretty popular project over there, so we're looking to get some accessibility things done there. And then finally, the sidewalk improvement program. So this fund was set up through the municipal sidewalk expansion policy that established guidelines to allow residents to request support from the municipality to install new sidewalks along streets. So we're kind of going through some changes through the commission right now, but that fund kind of stays in place each year. And then next we have, moving on to recreation, the tennis center elevator replacement. Very self-explanatory there. The project basically includes the replacement of the tennis center elevator. But now after that one, the tennis court lighting, courts 1 through 8, they'll be getting an upgraded LED fixtures. That'll be mounted on the existing poles, so it's just the light units themselves. But it's reducing a lot of glare. It's kind of bringing down that energy consumption. And that project was ranked 6th by the Sports Advisory Board this year. So we're looking to get that one moving as well. And then finally, for the recreation, we have the golf course improvements for 2024. This project includes the construction of an on-course restroom near tee box number 3. So I think that's the one just kind of midway down the hill. And that project was ranked 7th by the Sports Advisory Board. So I think that'd be really nice to kind of get a middle of the course restroom just in case anybody needs to use that. So moving on to public safety, specifically in fire, their number one project, I think each year, is the turnout gear replacement. Me personally, I know that turnout gear is extremely valuable to a firefighter, and they usually have a mandatory life cycle of 10 years, but it's kind of advised to replace every 5 years. So that'll basically be replacing the gear for the firefighters' career staff. So moving forward with that one, we'll also see the fire training facility storage building at the Public Works. Lots of familiarity for the planning board, just seen a couple months ago. But that provides a specific training area for specifically the fire department here in Mount Lebanon, but also a community-wide, or I should say a regionally wide asset. So looking to see if that could be done this year as well. Police ballistic vests, same thing with the turnout gear for the fire department. It's a mandatory life cycle. Theirs is 5 years, so that'll be replaced. I think it's required by their labor contract. That'll be replaced again in 2024. Additionally, the watch commander vehicle, the current watch commander vehicle will be 6 years old in 2024. That vehicle is also equipment with primary command posts for vehicles. So it's not a pursuit vehicle. It's not a daily vehicle. It's a as needed kind of a supervisory. And that vehicle actually will be considered for a possible electric vehicle infrastructure upgrade there. So we're looking to kind of explore some options there, possibly with some grant funding. So there's a lot of stuff out there from the federal government and the state government to kind of pursue that. And then and finally, the parking fund we have. So the North Garage top deck vestibule, that recommendation is to enclose that top deck vestibule up there with transparent framing, walls, and roof system. That's kind of waterproofing that entire area. That area up there is exposed to the elements. So we've kind of seen a decrease of the quality up there. It's kind of getting really weathered. So we're kind of closing that off. But then the next one, we discussed this as well, was the south garage replacement. I know Ian discussed this a little bit in our session before. And so looking to determine that it will have to have significant rehabilitation improvements over the next 4 years to address certain areas of the garage, but the useful life of the garage is no more than 5 years. So a complete replacement of the garage could be taking place by 2028. So that again is included in this CIP. So, and then finally, the north garage elevators. Also, again, the outdoor nature of that leads the cars to wear a little bit more faster than they should compared to the indoor cars. So they'll be replaced to kind of withstand that salt and water and things like that over time. So those are pretty much all of the 2024 projects prioritized. As you can see, flipping through the CIP, there's a lot more projects that are listed over the next 5 years, but those are primarily the most important ones for next year. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Do we anticipate a lot of those future year projects might change based on the new comprehensive plan?
That is a good factor. I would say that's an important factor to take into consideration. I definitely see that happening. Each year we have, like recreation, we have the sports advisory board that recommends projects based off their rankings. Things change. Projects get moved forward, projects get moved back, but I definitely see the comprehensive plan because also in the CIP this year, we referenced our Parks Master Plan, our comprehensive plan, our climate action plan. The old comprehensive plan, the 2013, or technically our current comprehensive plan is still being referenced, but next year we'll obviously be able to reference the new ones. So there will probably be a decent amount of changes in there. But to answer your question, yes, I do see the new comprehensive plan influencing a lot of these projects. So,
And what's the timetable of the main park analysis that's going on?
The goal is to have preliminary recommendations for the commission to look at before budget time. So that's like November-ish timeframe, and have a final plan wrapped up by end of this year, beginning of next year. We're gonna have some additional debt service capacity next year. We have some bonds that are falling off that'll be paid off. So we'll have some capacity to consider some bond issue projects. So it's going to queue up nicely with the completion of the Parks Master Plan last year, the completion of the comp plan this year, and the soon to be completed main park site plan to have some funding availability through debt issuance to be able to do some of those bigger projects. And some of these projects that Greg mentioned too may also, like the fire training facility, may get funded out of the bond issue as well, depending on the amount of capacity that we have, just because that's a bigger ticket item that's on the list. The one other thing I'll mention that Greg mentioned, the Watch Commander vehicle being 6 years old. We have a vehicle rotation here. So typically vehicles start at the highest users and kind of work their way down. So just because that vehicle is 6 years old, we're not going to be getting rid of it. It'll probably get transitioned to another department within the municipality. So we really use vehicles until the end of their useful life. So we'll probably get a new one for Watch Command, which, as you mentioned, maybe have the capacity to be an electric vehicle just because of the usage of that car. But then the current vehicle will get transitioned to another department.
I have one other question about EVs,
Mhm.
because I noticed in today's paper, the federal government is giving all kinds of money to Sheets and other places to install all of these chargers all over the region. Are we pursuing to get any chargers for like the garages and?
So we actually recently, the Overlook, the kind of the first step was the Overlook lot. When they redid the Overlook lot, there are actually 2 EV charging spaces there that for public use.
That's
And
behind Beverly Road for anyone watching at home that may not know where Overlook is.
Yes. But now in the south garage, which is just uptown, not the north garage, south garage, there's also 2 EV spots as well. So there is a charging station that's, I think that company is ChargePoint, but that was done through, can't remember exactly who that was done through. I think it was the parking fund.
Yeah, that was done through the parking fund because we ran the conduit in-house for it.
So, but there are public charging stations that we have through the municipality, but we are obviously pursuing grant opportunities because there is a lot of funding out there to do some more infrastructure based, but then again, with Sheets and the other private owners, I've seen tons of charging stations being put in with the infrastructure they have, so.
Greg's been attending webinars for a while on a lot of these things and trying to figure out what we're eligible for. There was one really big pot of money that I think you had to be within a mile of a highway interchange or something. And we were like just outside of it.
Yeah, it was a federal government.
Yeah.
It was a what's the DOT for the federal one? I can't remember the acronym they have. But it was the Federal Highway Administration.
Oh.
And they had specific key areas and we were just outside because we do have 79, we do have 376 and 79 that we're kind of relatively close to, but we are not in those corridors for the funding. So we weren't able to get it, but there was a couple $100 million out there. But I'm hoping if, again, this is a public meeting, hopefully some of the neighboring communities can catch wind of that and hopefully upgrade their infrastructure there. So.
Private street buyback or whatever it was called. Is that a new line item?
No, so the private street has kind of been a placeholder in the CIP for a while. Back in 2013, the commission adopted a private street policy that basically said if property owners on a private street wanted their street to be converted into a municipal street, there was a cost sharing formula based on the daily traffic, number of homes, type of street, whether it was, collector, arterial, local, whatever it was. And then there was cost sharing between private street owners and the municipality to then, construct the street up to municipal standards, and then we would take it over. To date, we've had 0 applications of people looking to convert their private street to a municipal street. So usually we just keep that as a placeholder in future years of the plan, that if we get an application, we're kind of recognizing that, we are planning for the eventuality that someday someone will want to convert their street. So we kind of usually stick those numbers in future years of the plan just to say, hey, at some point, someone's going to apply for this, but that's why it's never been in the current year, because we've never gotten an application for it. So it usually just stays as a couple years out. And I'll just say anecdotally, there are things that people on private streets, yes, they have to do their own street maintenance on their street, but they don't have to necessarily abide by certain other requirements that the municipality has on a public street, such as encroachments into the right of way, things like that, you can put landscaping closer up to a private street. So that's usually one of the hurdles of the conversion, is when you realize how much wider the street would have to become between, 2-foot rolled curbs, the cartway, all that width that gets generated, people start to realize how much of their front yard they're going to lose. And then they're like, I think we're okay with our private street. We're just going to keep it how it is. So yeah, that's usually been the sticking point there. And obviously, since it is a private street, you would need 100% participation from everyone on the street to be willing to participate and deed the street over to the municipality. So
There's
Yeah.
a section of Broadmoor that I don't understand how it's a private street.
just past,
That's Crystal.
yes. Yeah,
That's our-
yeah.
A lot of traffic.
So that one, is that hold on, I want to look, because we have, there's,
different.
yeah. So that one is a land company street, actually. That's what I wanted to look up. So we have both land company streets and private streets. Land company streets were ones that were dedicated to public use, but not improved to municipal standards, and similarly are maintained by abutting property owners. Broadmoor, there's a section of Audubon, which is really weird because it's in the same block. It starts as a public street, becomes private, and then at the intersection becomes public again. Broadmoor similarly, like, just becomes, I guess, a land company street, technically not private. But then there are also just private streets, which are completely not dedicated to the public. Like Arlington Park, Forest Glen, some of the other ones around, Shady Lane off of Crystal in that same area. So, yeah, I guess we do sort of have the different definitions between private and land company streets, but, the section of Pennsylvania Boulevard where we just reviewed the plan was a land company street that was dedicated to public use, but it wasn't improved to municipal standards, which now it will be. So, we will have one of those that falls off the list. But, other than that, yeah, that was one that whenever it was put in, the developer at the time didn't construct it to municipal standards and, didn't dedicate it to the municipality after it was built. So we never accepted it as a municipal street. And there's a lot back in that little
Probably
area.
developers agreements back then either.
Yeah.
There was something called World War II going on. Things like that happened. I think that's part of some of the stories of why Things never happened.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that's why we don't have sidewalks in certain areas, because there wasn't concrete available
Right.
during the wartime. That some areas got built with sidewalks, some
There was
didn't.
nobody to build them,
Yeah,
much like now.
yeah. Yeah, but that whole little section after Crystal, there's a lot of the private land company streets, like Gypsy Lane off of Crystal, that section of Broadmoor, Shady Lane, and then even the dead ends of Crystal and Kenilworth and, what's the next one after that? It's Crystal, Kenilworth, and, whatever the next one is, that Audubon section, Rock Springs back there is also a private street. So there's a lot kind of back in that corner of Sunset Hills, back behind the golf course, that are private, undedicated streets. But I think to Dan's point, it was when that area of the community got developed.
Yeah.
So that was a lengthy answer to a short question.
Ian specializes in that.
I do, you're right. Cool.
Someone want to make a motion?
This is Dave Wanacek. I make a motion to recommend the 2024-2028 capital improvements program as being in accordance with the adopted comprehensive plan.
Rebecca Griffith, I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any citizen comments? Is there anybody on Zoom? Okay, well, with that, our next regularly scheduled meeting of the Mount Lebanon Planning Board is Tuesday, September 19th, 2023 at 7 p.m. All municipal meetings now have a Zoom webinar component to enable residents to attend meetings either virtually or in person. Someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
John Schrod, I move that we adjourn.
Rebecca Griffith, I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?